Today we're covering overcoming the biggest remote work challenges, and there are many of them which are causing issues all up and down the country and over Europe. To be honest, it's something that I've worked with quite closely. My name is Ian Hughes. I work with a company called MyQuickCloud, and today we're providing this presentation on behalf of the CQI, which I'm sure you all know. It's the Chartered Quality Institute, and you can probably tell from the accent, but I'm supporting the Birmingham branch of the CQI today. And I'm from MyQuickCloud, with software that's revolutionizing remote work, and we work with lots of different sectors. And I'm going to introduce Alex. So Alex, over to you.
Hi guys, so I'm Alex Mullet. It says director, sounds quite grandiose. I work for my own company. We're called Mullet Solutions. Maybe on the next slide, Ian. Yeah, so I wear two hats. I'm an ISO consultant, and I'm also a lead assessor for a UCAS accredited certification body. So I can help people get ready for ISO, and obviously then give them ISO as part of the audit. Yeah, just love having ISO fun across many different standards that are on the screen, including ISO 27001.
Thank you, Alex. And obviously, MyQuickCloud, just to give you a very brief overview of it, it's a remote desktop software which enables you to log in from anywhere, access any app that you want. You can actually bring in teams, freelancers, remote workers from other side of the world who can log in and have access to all of your apps in an effective and secure way. So very well worth looking at that. So today we are talking about remote working. So where are we now with it? It's really interesting. About 60% of remote working individuals and employees are basically working in their place of work. For the reason is that they can't do their job from home. But of course, working from home is not an option if you're working in retail and different things like that. So of the remainder, around 10% now working entirely from home. And then there's about 1 in 3 of us who are working in a hybrid fashion, 2 or 3 days in the office here and there. And of course, COVID actually changed everything when it comes to remote working, and you could argue that it's never really gone back to normal since. Now, in terms of how people are working now in a hybrid way, a lot of companies are moving to shared working spaces, working collaboratively in basically places like WeWork, Spaces, Clockwise, Work Life, and these are popping up all over the country, and new ways to work and collaborate with others. Obviously, most of them, if you've not been in one, are open plan. But of course, working in a space like this, there is definitely more risk involved in working in an area like that, which isn't a private physical office location, which probably would have an IT security team look after it and so forth. So we're going to start with what are the top 8 remote working challenges which are affecting businesses right now. And I'm going to share these slides. I'm not going to go through every single point, but I'm going to pick 2 or 3 out which are really, really important and worth looking at. So the first one, Alex, I mean, for me, the first one is the remote team collaboration and comms. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's so hard to work in some kind of sectors and companies just working remotely like this. It takes time to share the screen. The comms are kind of ineffective, and just generally, so where I am right now at home, I'm distracted as well. So it can be really much harder to work collaboratively and communicate with your team verbally via a Slack channel. It's just generally harder. Absolutely,
and the next one is the productivity. So we see quite often at MyQuickCloud, one of the risks is ineffective onboarding, where people don't have access to the right technology or the right software, and of course broadband issues, things like that. So people are accessing intellectual property using unsecure networks from different spaces, and of course management don't have the visibility of where those staff are and how they're accessing those areas. The other one, of course, is security, and that's really important. And of course, you can't really legislate for physical loss of devices if people are on the train and stuff. All you can do is actually just teach them best practice. And you know, one of the points Alex made yesterday when we were planning this presentation was cars are actually more common than home thefts, and that's really important point. Then you've got the softer things like balancing work and personal life. For those who've seen a lot of the mental health and well-being webinars which are out there at the moment, are talking about burnout, which is happening from people just having direct access to work at any time, and trying to be seen in front of management teams who need them. So we're going to cover ISO 27001. This is the IT security standard, which is known worldwide. Definitely Alex's area here, and I'm absolutely delighted to have such an expert on this subject with me today. So thank you very much, Alex. Alex, I'm going to hand over to you to just give us a brief overview about ISO 27001.
Yeah, sure. So ISO is one of a suite of standards. You may have heard of ISO 9001 quality, environmental for ISO 14001. This is the information security, the IT standard. Recently went through a transition recently, so at the 2022 version. And it is looking at the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information, and kind of risks associated with losses there. Like any ISO standard, it has clauses. They run from 4 to 10. Again, it's very common across all ISO standards, and it's called Annex SL as a structure. But on the screen here are those clauses from 4 to 10. The great thing about ISO 27001, it then throws in another 93 requirements. One of which we're going to get to in a second round of remote working. But those 93 requirements are additional to the clauses, and they're things that every company has to consider to include or exclude if they can, and it's justified. But it just makes it more robust. It's a much bigger standard than any other ISO standard I've worked with. So there's lots to do, including obviously remote working as a key aspect of that.
Thank you, Alex. So yeah, it's worth mentioning, we're not here to promote this standard today. Oh, no. We're here to say it's there if you want it, but let's take the key ingredients, the key points which you can implement within your business to ensure that you're doing the right things, choosing the right products and software for your business. The bit that we're really focusing in on is the remote working aspects of ISO 27001, and that's called Annex A 6.7. And this is it's one of the latest additions to ISO 27001. So if you are working remotely, these are the key points to really take from it. Alex, would you like to give us an overview of this?
Yeah, so you're right. So one of the previous versions of the ISO 27001 standard, it assumed everyone worked in the office, and it was the exception to work outside the office, to take assets off site. Obviously, thankfully, the ISO standard caught up, and it's obviously a key part of this. So what we're looking here is kind of for the companies to provide guidance, a policy, a process, a manual, just a thing that's going to help the staff and contractors where applicable. Interact with the company system, be it systems, be it networks, be it just general assets and access, and just kind of just control the information that everyone's processing when they're working remotely.
Thank you. So let's look at the security implications of remote working. Remote working can present a range of security risks that need to be addressed. And not everybody has an IT team, HR team to support them with these things. It's worth absolutely knowing about. The first one is access control. So this is really beneficial to know about, because where are the vulnerable security issues within your business? Is it unauthorized access to passwords? Could it be security issues around hacking, malware? How safe and secure is the software and the websites and all of the technology that you're using? So how are you controlling the flow of people in and out the office, and who can access every part of the business? The next one is the loss of physical security. So remote working can have an effect on this. Staff aren't present in the office, so how can you control the threats which are out there? Regular training and strong access controls can help minimize insider threats. So that's a key thing that should go into your policy when onboarding an individual and they're working remotely, is letting them know what you expect from them. Confidentiality has always been a really important in any business. But for example, how are people gaining access to corporate data? How are they sharing it? What type of devices are they using? Is there a way you can control that access? At MyQuickCloud, one of the ways that we do that is ensuring that the hub that people are logging in on and signing in on is all authorized by the management. We've got the right people accessing the technology at the right time and in the right way, and of course accessing the tools they need to do their job securely. And they can do that from their own device as well. Now, privacy is another one. Thinking about basically what property, intellectual property of people holding that could jeopardize your firm's privacy. In my working career, one of the biggest risks that I've seen in my business and working alongside others was the risk of human error. It's probably the best type of IT risk that if you ever face it or come into something like that, where one individual actually shared private company files with a competitor via email, and there was nothing that could have been done. It was the same name, but it actually went out. Alex, have you seen any? You've got any stories you can share that are similar to that, where human error plays a big part?
Yeah, I work with clients now and again, and they introduce the 15-second rule, where and you can turn it on yourself in some kind of Outlook and Gmail features, where you send the email, and then you've got 15 seconds before it actually goes. So sometimes we've all got fat fingers, and to me, an example, I've sent it to the wrong Ian. Oops, a daisy. Oh, and I've got 15 seconds to get it back. And that's quite a good tool that some clients can use. But Ian is right. These risks are also inflated because, and I think on the next slide around data protection, we've got to make sure we've got controls in place to protect information. And then when it's personal information and really personally identified information, the risks are there and the penalties are severe. We see in the news quite often that the ICO have fined companies for a kind of a breach, a lack of confidentiality, or just oversharing information. And the fines for GDPR, Data Protection Act, are huge. So it's very important that companies get this right from their own point of view, but obviously legally and financially as well. Doubly important.
Absolutely. And obviously under GDPR, everybody should have their own data protection officer in the business. It can be quite challenging, but the good thing about it, even if you're a very small business, it does enable you to know all of these things and set the policies in place that you need to make sure at minimum you've got a privacy statement on the website that lets people know who's dealing with that and gives them the confidence to work with you. So what is the purpose of Annex A 6.7? Well, it's to guarantee that remote personnel have the necessary access controls to safeguard the confidentiality and integrity of the business and all of the information within it. And your organization should basically create a tailored policy that lays out all of the applications and the limits of how you're going to work and support clients. It could be that some of the businesses that you work with will ask for this from you. So it's really, really worth creating something like this so people know how you're looking after their data and what controls and who you're working with in the supply chain to make sure that you're covered. So the policy is likely to address the conditions in which remote working is allowed, ensuring that remote workers have access to confidential information and the processes of that, and ensuring that the information is safeguarded when transmitted. And that's really important to make sure that you speak to the right partners, understand where everything's hosted and how they're backing up and looking after your data. So the next phase of this then is, okay, what happens if something goes wrong and how do you report the incident? So it's essential to understand a clear system for reporting incidents to help protect you when a security breach happens. And of course, if you can show the powers that be, like the ICO, what you did and how you dealt with it, then it can go in your favour to avoid the big penalties and fines, which no doubt companies are seeing all over the UK at the minute. So encryption, firewalls, antivirus software, all of that. If you don't have it internally, but you're working with software or clients that do have this, that gives you some peace of mind. But just find out, get their tech spec from them, and understand how your data is protected and who's looking after it, when and where it's held. So what is involved and how to meet the requirements of ISO 7001 and Annex A 0.67. I want to hand over Alex on this one to go through a couple of these points.
Cool. Okay, so it's very important that we have, I call it show and tell. So as an auditor, you've told me how we're going to meet the requirements via a policy, and then show me how it's being implemented. Okay, so, and quite often, back to a point Ian had 2 slides ago, I'll see templates as an auditor that are just off the shelf. They haven't been tailored to meet that company's own information security management system. So it's very important that the policy is established, it's communicated, and then kind of there's a follow-up check via internal audit or via just general engagement to make sure that everyone, staff and contractors, are aware of what's required and meet requirements. One of the key things as an auditor we don't see is that follow-up check. So we've got a policy. We've told people once at induction, but that's it. And you're expected just to crack on and keep information secure. And often that's where it falls down, because big companies working remotely, they're sporadic. It's hard to engage or get a effective communication message across. And that's where we see the breaches, the incidents.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm not going to go through this whole slide, but it's there for you following the meeting to make sure that you know how to meet the requirements. But picking off a couple of these ones which are really important, considering the physical security of the remote working site, any legal systems of the regions that you're working in. So if you're working with a client abroad, what are their minimum requirements that they need? Really important to know. From a procurement point of view, if you win that contract, how are you looking after the data, and will it meet local legislation of where you're working? Just understanding the type of technology that you're utilizing and how the data is backed up and where it's stored is really, really important. So build a close relationship with some of the partners in your supply chain if you don't have it currently. So you've got peace of mind where that data is. The risk of unauthorized access, how can you lessen that in terms of staff and where they're accessing data, and always think about passwords. Can you put 2-factor authentication onto most or all of the software and things that you're accessing, from banking, email, you name it? All of that is highly recommended, isn't it, Alex?
Yes, and lots of ways of doing the second factor authentication, be it biometrics, an eye scan. We've all probably got an app on our phones, or we're used to getting a text message with the 6-digit number. But it is so important, and it really strengthens controls. Just to rely on a username and a password, it's a lot easier for a hacker, someone trying to get in, to kind of impersonate you and identify you. So the 2FA is so important as a secondary authentication action.
Absolutely. So who is responsible for implementing remote working? Well, this is a great question, and me and Alex were talking about this, and it falls on so many different teams and people, and it all depends on how big the business is. Some people will say it's the IT, not necessarily if it's a small business, because you might not have an IT person. Larger companies would say it's HR, because of course they're responsible for all of the staff within the business. Others would say the operations team, because operationally it all contributes to the performance of the organization. It will come down to them if something goes wrong. Others would argue it's the MD or CEO or CTO. But of course, if small business, it's probably the DPO, the data protection officer. So looking at this, the organisation's IT department is typically responsible, as we know, for IT and so forth. But if you don't have them, just understand it could fall down to you as the DPO and the owner of your business to have all of this in place. And for those that haven't, you can register your business with the ICO, that's a good best practice to do as well. And you've also got things like Cyber Essentials and different things, which I know Alex provides and supports businesses to achieve for their business as well. So mitigating the security risks associated with remote working. Well, how can you do that? Well, the first one we talked about, to summarize, is implementing a remote working policy. Having that document that shows where all of the data is stored, who owns what, how it's hosted, any awards, certifications, anything that's going to give your clients peace of mind if they ask to see that document. And they could well do. It could be from a business continuity sense. It could be the fact that they're just interested to see where the data is sitting. Do you know where any data you're holding on behalf of clients, which country it's stored in, for example? That's a big question that I'm often asked. Providing secure devices and applications to remote workers. This one's probably the easiest one to sort. Again, secure devices, of course, whether they're using their own or you're providing applications to them, it's not necessarily what they've got, it's how they're accessing it and where they're accessing it. But if you're utilizing the right software with them, then that obviously removes a lot of the barriers around security and so forth. I'm going to hand over the next couple to Alex, because I know he feels quite strongly about the next point.
Yeah, and just kind of to add to the second one, I mean, I think generally as well, we're looking at kind of automated and manual controls. They're going to help reduce the risks associated with assets. So a secure device, the hard disk is encrypted. Even when we're carrying it around, the clear screen policy that you mentioned earlier, these are all good ways of securing your device to help you reduce the risk of a loss of asset. And kind of number 3 here, so an MDM is a very commonly used acronym. This is a mobile device management policy. So ideally, a company's mobile devices, laptops and Macs, will be enrolled in a centralized company system that's going to enforce some of these controls. Automated controls are always better than a manual control because don't rely on individuals to do stuff. But if it's set centrally that your password must be so many characters and 3 out of 4 character sets, if it's set centrally, that's going to push out software updates. It's set essentially going to push out malware updates and the clear screen policy. It's much better than relying on me and Ian to go in and do it ourselves. You know, take it out of our hands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And educating remote workers about information security risks. A lot of companies don't do this, would you believe? Sometimes they expect people to already know, and that's how things can go wrong. So always communicate, share updates to policies, ensure that people just know why and how these things are really important, and to protect them and most importantly protect the business and the brand that you're part of. And then monitoring and auditing remote working activities. Alex, could you just share a couple of ways that you can monitor and audit as an auditor yourself remote working activities in a business?
It's possible. It's a lot harder, but it's possible. I'm kind of linking points 4 and 5 together. I love seeing companies who will do kind of phishing scenario tests, where we're going to send out emails and pretend to be Ian Hughes, and just see which of our colleagues are going to be tempted by an email. It says click here, open a link, and then share information. So it's a good way of kind of enforcing messages, but it's a way of monitoring if our staff, our colleagues, are meeting our requirements of being careful with information being shared. Obviously, in a physical office, we can walk around and check the physical security of an office, but it's very hard for me to audit where Ian is right now. I've got to be a little bit intrusive. I've got to, Ian, can you show me a camera? Can you show me your room and kind of show me that you're in a secure environment? That's quite intrusive, so it does make it harder. And that's where kind of the use of kind of good SaaS software as a service kind of providers can just help control data and just reduce the risk. And then a lot of the auditing and monitoring can be done centrally. So it's kind of, yeah, the more we can take it out of relying on Ian to do stuff and Alex, the better. But we need monitors, we need measures, we need auditing to have that confidence that our controls are working.
Thank you, Alex. So MyQuickCloud have got involved at it's World Quality Week, which is fantastic, and we're really proud to be delivering this presentation on behalf of the CQI today for the Birmingham branch. In terms of just giving a very short overview about MyQuickCloud, Alex just mentioned software as a service there. What MyQuickCloud has done is actually condensed all of this into one place. So it's revolutionizing remote work and simplifying the operations of a business. So if you imagine you have all of the security aspects in your IT team in the background if you ever need them, but you can simply set up your own hub and your board to basically give access and control to the right people who are going to access the apps that you already run in your company, but doing it over a private desktop, which you can access from anywhere in the world, from any place and any device. So it completely puts all of the data, whether somebody's working in India, in America, or basically working on the train, everyone's accessing that one secure area for all of that data. And it completely removes the cost of having to purchase devices and stuff, because people can use their own, they're logging in securely over the cloud, and all of the hosting and so forth is all ISO 27001 anyway. So it actually can contribute and support the working process. So if you've not heard of it or had a look at it, it's working with hundreds of organizations across different sectors, from public sector, accounting, small business, freelancers. Have a look at MyQuickCloud, and you can, if you've got any questions, please get in touch with me. You all have my email, and happy to run through with you and show you in more detail. So that's myquickcloud.com. And a word from Alex on Mullet Solutions.
Cool. Just for me, so as I said at the start, I'm a consultant one day and an auditor giving out ISO the next day. Just generally when I'm a consultant, it's a massive help to me where the company I'm going to work with have got good software. If they've got nothing, then it's still doable. We can still complete the project. But having good software, and not 1,000 softwares, having one good software that's secure, everyone can access, controlling assets that way, is ideal for me. And if it's embedded in the company, it's going to make the project easier and generally help the companies to maintain their own ISO security controls and general cyber security in general. So I have ISO fun every day with different clients and different companies. I always think ISO is quite boring, but actually what's interesting is coming out to meet Ian or to Lisa or to Chris or to Caroline, and to kind of see how you and your company embed in information security in your business. So I think it's fun, but there's a lot to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is great fun. And with all these types of certifications, some companies see them as ticking the box, and some people see them as tailoring to meet the needs of their business. And all of these certifications can be changed and tailored to fit in with the business. They're not meant to be a tick the box list that is assigned for anyone. And that's I know something that quality professionals are really passionate about.